Hello, and welcome to the Space King podcast, where all things converge, from the innermost depths of the mind to the outer reaches of the cosmos. This is your reality. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Space King podcast for January 22nd, 2019, episode 3, Cryptozoology and Urban Legends. I'm your host, David, along with Jericho. Jericho, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing very good. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm excited about tonight. This is some of the stuff that I really like to talk about. I'm really interested in a lot of this kind of thing, especially cryptozoology, so I'm all set. I'm ready to go, my man.
All right. Well, go ahead and start us off here with your first thing for tonight.
All right. Well, my first story tonight I'm going to kick off with is kind of a combination of real and cryptozoology combined. I'm going to describe a creature to you. Okay. So this creature, it's about the size of like a small dog, maybe like a Labrador. Okay. Or like a German Shepherd. It's around that size. Okay.
All right. Now so cute and cuddly, right?
Oh yeah, cute and cuddly. You'd want this thing living with you for sure, man.
Okay. Good.
So it has a stiff tail. Okay. So kind of like a kangaroo would have a stiff tail like that.
Okay.
It has a running gait on it that was described as being kind of a run and a hop at the same time.
So it doesn't just run or walk or anything. It kind of hops at the same time. It's like a running skip.
Kind of, yes. That's how it's described. It has stripes on it, along its back, kind of like a tiger or a zebra would have. Okay. It also has a pouch. It's a marsupial.
Is it some sort of like a hybrid koala kangaroo dog?
Well, you would say it's more of like a hybrid apex predator kangaroo is what some people have described it as. And what I'm talking about comes from Australia and Tasmania, and it's known as the Tasmanian tiger. Now, this was a real creature that existed. It's extinct now. But the last one was captured in 1932. Okay. And it was taken to I think it was the Hobart Zoo in Australia. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm probably butchering it. And that's where the animal was kept on display. And it died in 1936. Okay, and supposedly that was the last one, and it's gone extinct now. It's an extinct animal. But there have been sightings of this creature in the 50s. Supposedly someone said they saw one. There's been a sighting in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and as recent in the 2000s. People have spotted what they think is a Tasmanian tiger. Of course, people say no.
So it'd be kind of like the myth of the mountain lion in Pennsylvania that the foresters say don't exist, but people have seen it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And what's interesting about this is that all these sightings have taken place, and of course science now says that it doesn't exist. So now it falls, because they say it's extinct, and so now it kind of falls into cryptozoology a little bit. But this is definitely not what I would call what I would think would be a friendly creature. I mean, this thing was described back in the day by settlers in Australia as being like vicious, a monster. Supposedly it was killing their sheep. And also the government did put a bounty on its head. And that's that's why it went extinct. Hunters went out and killed this thing. But if you see the video, there is actual film footage from 1934 when it was in captivity. And it looks a little on the sickly side. Supposedly when it died, it did die of neglect.
Okay.
At this zoo. So it kind of looks a little sickly. Yeah, definitely. But what's interesting is like this thing at one point opens its mouth and it's huge. I mean, the way the mouth opens on this thing, your head would fit inside it. And
wow.
the mouth on it is just absolutely humongous. And if you look at its head is really, really big.
You know, like crocodile level open in its mouth.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's at the very beginning of the video, and it's just amazing how big the head is. And I'm going to send you things so you can see what I'm talking about. But it's just amazing how big it is. And, you know, it's described, like I said, as being very dangerous and all that kind of stuff. In the video, it's a little underwhelming when you actually like see the footage, because it kind of reminds you of like a dog a little bit, just, you know, sitting around the cage. But what's interesting about the video is there's nothing in it to give it any scale.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing to really give it scale, but the head on it is really big.
That's a pretty
like
big
the head just looks huge.
Looks like a little raptor like a little raptor dog.
Yeah, that's a perfect description. Yeah. And I wouldn't want to see these things coming at me. Now, according to science, they say that evidence shows that it was a shy animal, nocturnal. You know, if it is nocturnal, yeah, it'd be hard to find if it still exists to this day. You know, people say that they have seen it out there,
Okay.
You know, roaming the countrysides and everything in Australia.
Yeah.
I believe that it could still exist.
I mean,
I don't see why it could.
Makes sense.
You know.
I mean, there's all sorts of stuff they say that doesn't exist that people claim to have seen recently, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, exactly. And this, I mean, this creature is also ancient. This is an ancient creature. I mean, it goes back, they think the first one probably appeared about 4 million years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's a long time. I mean, that means this creature existed, you know, on our planet for a very, very long time, which also means that it's very adaptable, you know, that it could survive that long. So it's possible that, you know, maybe small packs of it still exist in the outback or, you know, somewhere on Tasmania. Who knows?
Maybe
I just think it's really cool animal.
Maybe the true conspiracy is that they found their way over here and we didn't know it.
Yeah, right. Well, there is the interesting thing is they found a preserved specimen that a collector had of, I guess it was a fetus of one of these creatures, and they know that's what it is, and they extracted usable DNA from it.
Oh, wow.
And this was, I believe this was in like the 90s, probably, I think, when this happened. But the talk was, you know, should they take the DNA and clone this animal and bring it back? Because the fact that it went extinct from man, you know, from man hunting it. Yeah, so should they bring it back or not?
If we made it go extinct, then that's the question that's up for debate.
Exactly. But, you know, what they would do is they would combine the DNA of another known species of either like Tasmanian, probably like the Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
They were talking about to, I guess, fill in the gaps that they need to fill in. But I just think if it still exists, that's so cool. This is one of my favorite stories. When I first heard about this, I thought it was actually not real. I thought it was an urban legend, you know,
really?
Real cryptozoology when I first heard about it. And then when I looked into it more, this thing was real. And I'm like, that's so badass.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to see, now I don't know if these things ran in packs or not, but I can tell you this much. I wouldn't want to see a pack of these things coming at me.
Yeah, no way.
Not with that head and not with the way that mouth opens up.
I believe that they were real because they used to base the character Tasmanian Devil off of it, and that's how I knew it was real at one point. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, being a kid, watching a lot of Looney Tunes and all that stuff, I used to... I used to play games with Taz is one of the main characters. So the Tasmanian Devil. I mean, obviously the cartoon was nothing like the actual creature, but I knew they based it off of that.
Yeah, and it's just really, I mean, there are cave paintings of this creature going back, for a very long time with the Aborigines. And I think, what was the thing that they were talking about, though? I think one of the first encounters with Europeans goes back as far as 1642. And they found first, it's like the footprints and described as, wild beasts, large claws, and described it as a tiger because of the stripes and everything on it. So this also was described as being a tiger cat. Definitely, though, it was an apex predator. This thing, wasn't a cuddly kangaroo by any means.
Well,
and what's interesting,
I wouldn't mess with kangaroos either, though.
Oh, kangaroos, yeah, they'll knock you out, man. They kick you with those legs. But kangaroos are nice. I actually saw some kangaroos in Australia when we went to the zoo, and there's pictures of us actually. Kangaroos were laying on the ground, and there's pictures of us laying next to them and everything. Oh, I wouldn't lay next to one of these things, though.
Yep, no way.
So it's an interesting story and a very interesting creature that did exist but went extinct, and now is kind of relegated to being like a legend and also a cryptozoology creature because science says it's extinct and doesn't exist, but people claim to spot it out there, And I think it's one of those things that, again, until there's actual footage of some kind or they recapture one, it'll be considered extinct until then. But it's definitely a cool animal. I think it's awesome.
I'd rather have a pack of coyotes than a pack of those Tasmanian devils running around the forest.
And they describe it as being a small, like I said, like small dog size. But I'm not sure they didn't get bigger than that. Bigger, because one of the things that I read about it when it was captured in the wild in 1932, there's a picture of the guy with it and his dog, and it looks about the size of his dog, maybe a little bigger, but there was some talk that might have been a juvenile.
Okay.
So if it was a juvenile, then it would have gotten, larger. And you don't know. I mean, you look at like the wolves here, in Northern America, they get huge, man. I didn't know they got that big. I don't know which species it was. Maybe it was a timber wolf I saw at the zoo, and that thing was the size of a deer. Like, it freaked me out. I'm like, if you saw that in the woods, I would have scared. I would be like, holy crap.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool animal, and I hope it still exists. I hope it still is alive. Well, I hope that they do find one.
I hope it does too. It's always a shame when something goes extinct and we caused it.
Mm-hmm. And that video, we'll get that up in the Discord for people to be able to check out and everything.
Well, it's almost so good.
No, just so everyone can check that out in the Discord if they want to see it. We'll get that up there quickly after the show.
Okay.
And everything for them to check out. So what do you have?
Real quick before we move on, I was going to say that's kind of like how we almost made the turkeys go extinct up here in North America.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We almost made them extinct for a while, and then because they were the chickens pretty much of North America back during the settling ages when the settlers came in.
Well, we have down here in Florida, we have panthers, and there was a lot of talk that they thought they went extinct.
Really?
But it turns out that there were some still around, and now we know that they're here. And we go down by the airport here by my house, and there's actually signs for panther crossings.
Wow. So,
it's not out of the realm of possibilities that this creature is still out there.
Yeah, I didn't know there's panthers in Florida. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. We got panthers down here.
Oh,
big cats.
Yeah. No, I know what they are. I mean, mountain lions are big cats too. Those things are scary as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so.
It's easier, to my understanding, from what I've heard from people that know animals pretty well, is it is easier to deal with a single wolf than it would be to deal with a single cougar. or a single mountain lion.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yep.
No doubt, probably.
I mean, wolves are vicious, but they're not the same kind of predator a feline is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the only difference though is that well, you said single wolf. So
Single wolf.
Mostly they travel. Yeah. They come in a pack though.
Yeah, that's scary.
I wouldn't want to deal with any of them. Everybody always sees these animals as cute and cuddly, and they're all so nice from watching TV and stuff like that. But you go see a tiger in the zoo, it looks all friendly and everything, and all that. But do you ever see a video of tigers in the wild?
Yeah, they're
like lions in the wild, man, taking down an animal.
Yep.
Those things are vicious, and I don't doubt that this thing was vicious, regardless of what it looks like in that video. I mean, it's in a captured cage, and you kind of notice in how it's just kind of going around in circles in that cage. Yeah,
It didn't like it being in there.
That thing wants out. It wants to get out of there.
And apparently, if I remember correctly, I saw a video talking about canines when yawning is a sign of distress.
Yeah, but did you watch the beginning of the video there when he opens his mouth up? That thing, dude, that would fit your head.
Yeah, I know.
And look at the jaws on that, like the jaws on that thing and stuff, and the size of his head. That would crush I think that could crush your skull.
Probably.
I really do.
I mean, the mouth on that thing could take your whole arm.
Absolutely.
But well, anyways, the topic, the thing I picked out for tonight, speaking of cryptozoology and urban myth, is I picked something that's more on the urban myth side.
Okay.
And it strikes a personal note with me, not because I've seen it, but because I have a slight phobia of one of the parts of this urban myth. I picked Mothman to talk about.
All right, cool.
Because I have a slight phobia for moths, so I figured let's talk about something I have a phobia of and turn it into a Mothman and talk about it. Yeah, because that would be terrifying to see a moth, like a human with a moth's face and wings. Freak me out. And its head and wings, I should say.
Okay. I'm not real familiar with the story of the Mothman. Well, I've heard of it.
This is saying on November 12th, 1966, 5 men who were digging a grave at a cemetery near Clendenin, West Virginia, claimed to see a man-like figure fly low from the trees over their heads. This is often identified as the first known sighting of what became known as Mothman. And there's been many instances of sightings. The first being November 12th. And this is shortly thereafter, November 15th the same year, 2 young couples from Point Pleasant, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette, told police they saw a large gray creature whose eyes glowed red when the car's headlights picked it up. They described it as a large flying man with 10-foot wings, following their car while they were driving in an area outside of town known as the TNT area, the site of a former World War II munitions plant.
And what year did this take place?
1966.
Okay. I'm wondering what year that the UFO thing crashed in West Virginia, and the first people that saw it claimed to see like this giant creature come out that had like red glowing eyes and like wings on it. I think that took place in the late 50s. I think it might have been before this.
I wonder if he survived then, if it survived until sightings of Mothman.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, that maybe this was the creature that was originally spotted by the witnesses of the crash, and then later on it was this. They described that crash originally in the end as being a part of like a burning tree with a giant horned owl on it that had its wings spread, and at night with the fire and everything, that's what the people saw. But if they saw something and then this incident happened later, in West Virginia also, that would be really freaking interesting to track down all that information and find out.
Yeah, here, I'll send you the link real quick. But yeah, 1966 Mothman. I've heard about it before. My dad and I, throughout my time growing up, have talked about a lot of urban myths and legends. We used to watch all that stuff on TV all the time.
Are there like any, like, what's the last known, like, anybody seen this thing?
Not from the site I have. The page I have doesn't have a whole lot on it. But
okay.
I know they've been talking about it they say it gets cited every couple of years from what I remember seeing on TV, but I don't see anything on the document that I have talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Now, is it ever hurt any? Like, has it attacked people or anything?
Well,
like
let's
that?
see. Well, real quick, I just saw something on here describing what you're talking about. It says, folklorist Jan Harold Brunvand notes that the Mothman has been widely covered in the popular press, some claiming sightings connected with UFOs, and others claiming that a military storage site was Mothman's home. So that kind of goes
military
with what you
storage.
said. Yep. Brunvan notes that the recountings of the 1966 through 67 Mothman reports usually state that at least 100 people saw Mothman, with many more afraid to report their sightings. But observed that written sources for such stories consisted of children's books or sensationalized or undocumented accounts that failed to quote identifiable persons.
Okay, it's also, even if the first sighting happened before the thing that happened with the UFO crash, it's possible that the creature was just around and then the crash happened.
Yeah, and it just happened to see it at the crash.
Yeah,
that's possible.
And that
too.
was just that's possible with that. Now, are there other sightings around the country of this creature, or is it only like been West Virginia?
To my understanding, it's mostly just in Virginia. I can double check real quick.
Okay. I mean, I've always heard the Mothman mentioned in different things, but I never really looked at to see what it was or followed up on that and stuff. But I've heard about it. I mean, I've heard about that for a long time, but I had no idea what it really consisted of. It's an interesting story.
It is. Well, here the Sun even talks about it. They did an article on it. And supposedly that's a picture of it.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow. That almost looks like, that's funny because I guess, is that a shadow, or is that supposed to be the actual creature in the air?
I'm assuming it's the actual creature in the air.
Okay, because the first thing I
flying through the trees.
I saw it, I was like, angel.
Well, I thought about that when I was looking at it. Or what if it was a person in an early wingsuit?
Oh, okay. Sure, why not?
But to be following them, though, I can't. A wingsuit that we're aware of today, at least, you can't normally hover or follow a vehicle. You'd be flying past it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they were that low to the ground, it wouldn't be. Yeah. I mean, it just makes me think of like an angel, or it could be a demon. I mean, it's hard to say, but that's a cool photograph for sure. That definitely is a cool looking photograph. And do you know of any other recent sites? Like I said,
right here,
there aren't any more recent ones?
It's still really old, but hold on a second, I gotta sneeze.
I just think it's really that photograph is really cool.
Yeah, well, right here it says, after sightings throughout the next year, the Silver Bridge collapsed on December 15th, 1967, killing dozens of people.
Oh, that's right. That's the one that they said that they blamed on the Mothman for the bridge collapse that took place. And people said that they heard like strange noises, and supposedly there were sightings of the Mothman, and then that bridge collapsed. Yeah, I remember hearing. That's where I heard about the Mothman. I think for the first time was with the bridge collapse. Was there any information about what engineers or anybody like that thought why the bridge collapsed?
Not that I've been able to find. There probably is. just not from what I found, just by looking at Mothman.
Because if they're, I'm sure they've come up with some sort of like, scientific explanation for what happened with the bridge. But it's interesting that the Mothman is been connected with that. Hasn't the Mothman been connected then with like other disasters and stuff? Isn't that part of its legend? If I remember
a dog disappeared and television sets were disrupted. All this was blamed on the creature. Other people reported it, but the sheriff, George Johnson, dismissed it as an unusually large heron. They said it had been a large flying man with wings 10 foot wide, and it followed their car. Okay, we heard about that already.
Well, how does a large herring disrupt television reception and make a dog disappear? Just what?
And collapse a bridge.
Yeah, I mean, a herring isn't going to be like, first off, it's not going to be picking up a dog and taking it away if the dog disappeared. And how would that interrupt TV signals? That's a weird explanation right there. I don't know about that one.
Yep.
Sometimes, I don't know. The stories are really, that's interesting. So you said that was the silver, the Pleasant Silver Bridge, is that what you called that? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm looking at a thing about that, and it says, witnesses claim to have seen the Mothman at the sighting of the bridge collapsing.
Yep. There's not a whole lot that I can find. It's probably there. It's just probably buried on the internet somewhere.
Yeah. The Mothman is a messenger that came to warn the people. Oh, that's interesting. So
some people
they're saying that it actually
warning them, and some of them are saying that he caused it.
Yeah. Well, now that leads back to if it was a messenger to warn people, then that kind of makes me think more angel.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like that's what that makes me think of. Anyways, that's
Yeah.
That's cool.
All I know is they even have a statue built of Mothman.
Yeah, that's cool. You go there and get your picture taken next to the Mothman statue.
Yeah, it's interesting that they said its eyes glowed red and it was flying around, because I've never seen anything like that, so I'm not entirely sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things that's, the idea of it being a moth that's a man at the same time as having wings and a moth head would be freaky, because I don't like moths. They're destructive. Not all of them. A lot of them are destructive and they can destroy everything. The one time, I forget, we brought bird feed home for some reason or something like that, and we got Indian meal moths and they ate everything in our pantry. They just absolutely destroyed it.
Oh.
Within a matter of a couple weeks, and they're hard to get rid of.
Yeah. I just I'm fascinated with the fact that that people say it was there to like warn them that the bridge was going to collapse. That interests me more than anything about this story, because if it was there to warn people, I'm wondering like what other events have taken place where like the Mothman has appeared and then something happened. And, is it this some sort
like a foreshadowing
precursor? Yeah. For a precursor, foreshadowing thing that something bad's going to happen if Mothman has been spotted.
Well, I'll tell you what. You guys will be the first to know if I see Mothman at any point in my life. I will make it very clear.
Let's go roam the woods of West Virginia and see if we can find them.
I'm good. I'll pass. Who knows what else is out there? But
yeah, right.
Our moderator said maybe it was a buff herring.
A buff herring?
Oh, he said it was he said it was an unusually large herring. The bird.
Okay.
He said maybe it was buff.
He's on steroids.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what he's claiming. He said maybe it was that.
He's been working. He's working out.
He said he swole.
That's what it is. Yeah. How you doing tonight, Mr. Marcus? Thank you for moderating as usual. We appreciate it. So,
well, what do you got?
I'm ready. Okay, well, my next thing that I have here tonight is this took place in 2008.
Okay.
And this is an interesting story. This is about the Montauk Monster.
I've heard of it before. I just don't remember what it is.
On July 23rd, 2008, an article appeared in newspaper, The Independent. And what happened is a woman by the name of Jenna Hewitt, 26, of Montauk, and 3 of her friends, they were on the beach, and they saw some people standing around looking at something. So they went over to see what was going on, and there was this creature that had washed up on the shore. Now, this thing looks really weird because the head looks like it has a beak on it, like a bird beak would have. Okay,
I know what you're talking about. I've seen it before.
Yeah, and then the bottom of the jaw has teeth, and some of the photos I've seen shows like almost like canines coming off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, you know, they've tried to figure out what this creature was. Some said, well, it was a raccoon. Now, what raccoon has a beak? Raccoons don't have beaks. Some people said, well, it could have been a turtle without its shell. But the problem is turtles don't have that type of, as far as I know, I don't think turtles have that like teeth on the bottom like that thing. And the arms, the problem is that it has arms and legs. Okay, turtles don't have that. So it's
turtles
really
have arms and legs.
Well, no, they have flippers like on.
Well, it depends. Are you talking about a sea turtle or?
No, I'm talking about sea turtles because this thing they were claiming it was a sea turtle.
Okay. As I say, turtles, by the way, do have feet. Just so you know.
Land tortoise. So, what was interesting also is when she was interviewed, she joked that maybe this was something from Plum Island. Now, Plum Island is a research facility off of the coast there. I think it's the southeast of Montauk, and it is a animal research facility that studies studies diseases for animals. So they experiment out there with hoof and mouth disease, and they experiment with all these different types of diseases for animals on this island.
What you're telling me is that they're making some crazy hybrids to try to fight disease, and when they die, they just dump them in the water, and they happen to wash up on the beach.
Well, either that or it escaped. And here's the thing: this is also some people believe this is where Lyme disease came from. That Lyme disease was something they were working on there, and it got out. And here comes the kicker. Okay, in 1954 on Plum Island, they started a germ warfare project out there, and it was headed by none other than the head of the Nazis' germ warfare program from World War II. He was one of the Nazi scientists that we brought back after the war for Project Paperclip. And they put him on this island in 1954 to start a germ warfare program because of the Cold War that was taking place with the Russians. And his thought was, well, if we make germ warfare that can attack like cattle or other animals, I guess to help disrupt like food supply, that type of
economy,
thing.
Essentially.
Yeah, so this is an ex-Nazi scientist running this program out there for this worm,
of course,
for this germ warfare thing on Plum Island.
Mark it down as one of the great things that the U.S. has decided to do in the past. One of many.
Yeah. And so, who knows what's going on out there in Plum Island, and it's very possible that this is where this creature came from. The ferry that goes back and forth out there, stuff has fallen off of that ferry, like deadly diseases, and has washed up on the beaches. Wow. Like I guess containers and stuff that contain like deadly diseases and everything. So when you look at this creature, I'm not buying that this thing is a raccoon or any, it just doesn't look like, to me,
Yeah.
Like would have been a raccoon.
It
doesn't look like it would be anything like that.
I've seen the pictures, and I too would say that it does not look like a raccoon of any kind. Even a hairless raccoon wouldn't look like that. It doesn't have the right face for a raccoon.
Well, yeah, exactly. And there was something, it's missing its upper jaw. But I'm like, it has a beak.
Yeah, raccoons don't have beaks.
This thing has a beak, and it has like canines in the front of it, which turtles don't have. Yep. So it's just a really bizarre looking creature. And with Plum Island being there, it's a good chance that this is where this thing, came from. Who knows?
By the way, I think I have to responsibly explain to you that apparently you're ruining Mr. Marcus's dreams tonight.
Why is that?
Because you asked how he was doing, and he replied, "Much better now that you're ruining my dreams tonight."
Okay. Why am I ruining
Talking
your
about
dreams,
the stuff,
Mr.
I'm
Marcus?
assuming. Freaking them out.
Oh. Giving them freaky dreams. It's okay, man. It'll be okay. We'll talk about it later. Don't worry. So anyways, there's been other creatures also that have been found on the beach supposedly over now since this happened, that people are claiming to be that they're labeling Montauk monsters and stuff, and some of them have been identified as like dogs or cats. Some have not. And now the other thing is that the corpse, of course, disappears, which is what happens in all these situations.
Yep.
After the photographs were taken and this appeared in the newspaper and all that, what happened to the corpse? Well, somebody came along, according to the story, some guy came along and took this thing. And it's like, he didn't say who he was or where he was from.
Didn't say what he was doing.
Yeah, somebody says, well, it ended up at some guy's house in his backyard, got buried. Nobody knows where it went. And it's a shame, too, because you could have extracted DNA from this. It could have been looked at by, some zoologists, biologists, and they would have known, you could have got more detailed information of what this thing is. If it's a known creature, it could just be an unknown,
creature type.
Something, creature from the ocean that we don't know about.
On the other hand, it might be a good thing that it wasn't found, because it could have been an infectious disease thing that they were experimenting on, or some creature that became deformed due to the infectious diseases they were testing out there on Plum Island.
Yeah, the possibilities of what this thing is endless. It really is. And you're right, it could have been something like that, which is even more scarier than it just being some like unknown creature.
Yeah. I agree.
Some people claim it could be a chupacabra.
Yep.
That it comes from that, which, who knows? But the photograph that is pretty awesome, though. I think that's the original photograph of that picture, of that animal.
Someone in the chat said the guy who took it got it stuffed, named it Fluffy, and has it chilling in his living room.
Maybe he does. How cool would that be? Go over to your friend's house and you're like, "What's that?" He's like, "Oh, that's the Montauk monster that I found on the beach. I stuffed him and he's hanging out here with me now."
Yep,
that'd be pretty cool.
That
was an awesome creature.
That would definitely be a showcase that most people could not have on their display.
Yeah. But the thing is what the stuff that Nazis did. They did a lot of weird experiments during the war everything, and we're trying all different strange stuff. So, when you say that there was a research facility out there that was supposedly germ warfare being run by an ex-Nazi scientist, who knows what they were creating in labs out there. To me, this story has everything. It's a mystery of a creature, then you got Nazis involved, it's out on Plum Island.
It's a conspiracy and a monster all in one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You could make a great movie.
Yeah, you probably could.
Out of this story. You could make a really great movie out of this. It's a fantastic story. And if people want to know more about it, they can, find out more on the good old Google, as they say.
Someone says...
we also have the links in our Discord.
Next new HBO hit? Question mark.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely. Oh, the other thing is, I have another video too that I'll post. It's from Fox News, and it's of Geraldo Rivera when he had his show, and they talk about the Montauk Monster.
Really?
Like, he mentions it. They talk about, now the photo they show in that segment that he's talking about is not the photo that I sent to you. The one that they show, actually, I think was the one of a dog, but they end up talking about Plum Island then too, and everything, and they talk about the Montauk Monster and stuff. So it's a great, great crypto urban legend that existed and is out there, and who knows what it was. It'd be great if somebody were to find the bones of this creature. That would be fantastic.
That would most definitely be interesting as well. They could, I don't know, we could gain a lot from studying those things.
Yeah. And I just want to also, a side note here, just to remind everybody, if they're listening, that if you want to be on the podcast, you can hop into the Discord, go to the podcast waiting channel, and if you have questions or a story you want to tell us, we'll definitely bring in. You can hit us up. So, Jericho, what else do you have for us tonight?
All right. Well, I was going to pick I have two different things to go with, but I'm going to change the order of them because one of the things I had actually kind of goes with what we're talking about just before this. Okay. And I was going to talk about human-animal hybrids or chimeras.
Okay.
And it's when, they talk about them all the time. They talk about, like, all these different instances of people having scales, people having bird beaks for a mouth, and all this other stuff, and they say it's all these different genetic disorders and everything. Well, I'm not so sure about that, because I know some of it very well could be, but I actually know some people and talk to some people that claim to have firsthand experience, or know someone who has firsthand experience in coming across these hybrid people.
Oh, really?
Yep. And supposedly there's some place in New Jersey, it's a hospital, where these hybrid children or people are sent to go live and grow old or live as long as they can. And I've heard of horse people, dog people, bird people, lizard people, and all these things. And the theory there is that some of them may be genetic mutations, where some of them are actually crossbreeding between human and animal. And they claim it's not possible, but I've seen where they say if you were to take off the protective layer around an animal egg, it could be fertilized with human DNA.
Okay.
Or, so that, let alone, it's like, well, if that's the case, then maybe it's possible for some cross-species stuff there too, just because you never know what happens in nature. So, like, in terms of, like, the eggs and the fertilization by humans or whatever, however it works, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And
so basically a Island of Dr. Moreau situation going on.
I don't know what that is. So
with human hybrid animal species, it's a book. It's interesting though. Because they're growing, like human hearts in like pigs for like transplants.
Yeah, we know it's possible for human DNA and animal DNA to coexist in one body. So the question is, are they actually just implanting human DNA into animals to like grow organs, or are they crossbreeding humans with other species to then harvest those animals?
Yeah, I mean it. They put a big kibosh on the whole cloning thing of humans and all that kind of stuff back when that all came up. But that there's a lab somewhere where they're taking human DNA and animal DNA and they're splicing this stuff together, and who knows what they're coming up with.
There's actually
in these laboratories.
There's actually a movie based on that. It's called Spliced. I watched that forever ago. That was a freaky movie.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
No, but it sounds cool though.
The whole premise of the movie is they have these two people that are husband and wife, and they're scientists. And they are working on raising... What do you call it? They have these beings that they've made. They've spliced from different animal DNAs. And these beings are... one's a male, one's a female. And it's like this huge sensation in the scientific community and in the world. They got a big spotlight on these creatures. Well, these creatures end up mating. And after they mate, the female that would have been impregnated became a male, and then they killed each other in front of everybody, and it was super gory. Like, the creatures fought each other. And there's only two of those creatures in existence. Well, later in the movie, if I remember correctly, the husband, well, they end up making a human-animal hybrid. I forget what they crossed it with. But it ended up being looked mostly like a human, but had some distinct features that made it not look like a human. And then they're raising it. The husband's keeping it a secret because it's his DNA. It was his DNA or whatever. And then he ended up mating with the thing. And then it turned into a male, and it killed him, and then it impregnated the woman. Yeah,
that sounds like a family-friendly movie.
Yep.
Forever.
Yep.
And so I have one question.
What's up?
Okay, you said that you knew somebody who had personal experience
or claims
with
that they know somebody. Yes.
Yeah. Now, do they have any idea? Like, do they think that these are genetic abnormalities that are taking place, or that it's genetic engineering being done on it?
Neither, actually. They believe that it was somehow a crossbreed.
Okay, so they think it's an actual...
It was either...
like a fertilization program taking place between interspecies?
Well, not that they all happened that way, but the particular instance that they were aware of, it was either somehow this person was impregnated by an animal, or somebody through some experiment impregnated this female with another animal's DNA.
Okay.
And she bore a child that was like a bird person, like a human with a bird beak, and it kind of had feathers. It kind of had feathers on the skin too, like skin, like feather-like.
Yeah, things. It's the chicken lady. Remember the chicken lady?
No, I don't remember, but
that was from like Saturday Night Live, or that other one that used to have In Living Color. They had the chicken lady.
Yep. But so it's one of those things, and this relates to I've seen on YouTube. They have these videos talking about the YouTube videos. I don't remember the guy's channel name, but he talks about making homunculus, which is human creatures. It's creatures crossed with human DNA, and he grows them. Yeah.
I heard of that.
Yep, and he grows them in like these vats of brine or whatever, and that stuff's creepy. And I had a feeling it was real, and then based on some conversations I've had with other people in the last year, who know that there are similar ways to make creatures like that, but not through that same method. It's a different method. I showed that to them, and they're very much like, oh, I believe that's real because I know you can do it in a different way.
Yeah, and is that the one where the guy claimed to take he took a chicken egg and he injected it with his own sperm?
Yep.
And then like he incubated it in some sort of solution, and this freaking thing grew out of it.
Exactly, and those things, it still creeps me out looking at it. It's, I don't know, it's just it's like a very primal instinct in me is very much like, no, stay away from it.
Yeah, that was a bizarre video when I saw that.
Well, there's a bunch of them.
If that's real, yeah. And then he like at one time didn't he like prick himself and like drop some blood into the water?
Yeah, and then it reacted,
and it like reacted like violently or whatever.
Well, it reacted like it was trying to go out and get the blood in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man.
no, it would only eat. It started only eating meat if he put his own blood on it first.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's just so bizarre. And this is some dude in his freaking house in like his kitchen doing this stuff. And then you got to wonder, like, what are they doing in these like secret laboratories and everything, and what's going on?
And
it's just so bizarre.
I've also heard claims that he was using old school alchemical books to do so.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't hear about that. I didn't know that was what it was.
I think in one of the videos he actually talks about it. But basically using old alchemical books and old things, which you could equate to witchcraft or whatever you want, but it's the old school alchemy, like trying to turn lead into gold and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
now, has anybody like gone and like interviewed this guy or investigated it and like,
not that I'm aware of,
talked to him and got footage of it and seen it and like firsthand experience with this guy?
Yeah, I'm not that I'm aware of. And yes, Mr. Marcus, yes, real life Full Metal Alchemist, like the anime, where they try to bring their mom back, pretty much. Except it's a little creature, homunculus, like in the show.
It's a bizarre creature.
Yep.
That thing is scary looking. That thing is scary looking.
It's terrifying. Even as a blob, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want it anywhere near me. I don't want it. I don't even want it in the same hemisphere as me. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now you were talking about the animal, the human animal hybrids.
Yeah.
Abnormalities that you're talking about. That's an interesting thing because you can document that type of thing all the way through history.
Yep.
There are tons of. If you look at the Egyptians, all of their gods were, animal head on human body. You could go back to the Anunnaki, who had supposedly wings. You've got creatures like mermaids.
Half fish, half person, woman.
Yeah. Yep. That existed. So this is something that has existed all through history, folklore of human-animal hybrids that have taken place. And it's possible in the past. One of the theories is about, alien intervention that messed with the creatures here on the planet and made, different human species hybrids of different animals and that type of thing. The other, so it's possible that's what it's from. It could have just been, again, creatures that existed that no longer exist. It could also be nowadays genetic experiments going on in laboratories.
Yep. I think it's probably all of the above. I really do.
Yeah.
I've learned a long time ago. I didn't used to think this. I learned a long time ago. If humanity can think of it, no matter how good or how evil it seems or how depraved it seems, humanity will do it. Someone will do it or try to do it.
Yep. If we can think it up, we're gonna try and make it real.
Yep.
That's for sure. Nothing's impossible.
Power of the human
just
mind.
We don't know how to. We don't know how to. Just because we don't know how to do it now doesn't mean that it's not possible.
And
that's just really cool.
And there's no moral. There's always somebody who will step over the moral line to do these things and not care.
Mm-hmm. Well, look at the Nazis in World War II.
Yeah.
The experiments that they did on, the prisoners in the concentration camps. Yep. All the experiments that were done on twins.
Yep.
Where, they took children. They took twin children, and one twin they would do these things to, and the other twin they wouldn't. To see the differences in what would happen to them. It's just sick and bizarre experiments that took place. And if people can, if they can do it, and they have the support and money behind them to do it, they will do it. There's no doubt about it.
That's why I completely believe that they have all these different hybrids, whether it's through cross-species breeding or in the lab being created or genetic mutation. Like, imagine Now, here's something for you I just thought of. Now, imagine if these genetic mutations that make people animal-like was because at some point in their past there was animal DNA in their family.
Mm-hmm. Well, sure.
That would be interesting.
That leads back to what I was saying about the tampering of the human DNA in the past, and it's possible that it exists within some people's genetic structure and within their DNA. I mean, at one time we had a tail, and some people are still born with tails to this day,
Yeah, well, they claim we had tails. I don't know if we did. They claim we did. I don't know how I feel about all that stuff, but it's all. It's just like it's all still just a theory. In the same way that we believe gravity exists, but technically gravity is still just a theory. You know what I mean? It's just it's because it can be explained. Like things can be explained in more than one way too. So it's
things can be explained different ways. The tail thing. I mean, I don't know. From what I know, supposedly that's scientific, not theory. But I don't know. I can't say.
I don't know either
about that. As far as I know, that's absolutely a thing. And just like gravity, don't you dare say that gravity doesn't exist. What's wrong?
Oh, I'm not saying gravity doesn't exist. I'm just saying it's still. I know, right? I'm just saying technically it's still a theory. They found.
What did Marcus say in the thing?
You guys hear? Go ahead, read this. Go ahead.
Did you guys hear about the creature they found in Jupiter a while back? Might be a bit off topic.
No, I have no idea about the creature that he's talking about.
Well, let's look this up since someone in the chat said something. Creature found on Jupiter.
What was this, Mr. Marcus?
On Jupiter's cloud. Fox News. Mysterious creature spotted in Jupiter's clouds stuns NASA space enthusiasts.
Hey, what? An actual creature? Like they spotted something?
That's what I'm going to find out right now. It says space enthusiasts have spotted what they claim is a mythical creature hidden in the swirls of Jupiter's cloud system. NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory recently revealed a new stunning image from its Juno spacecraft, which is currently circling the giant planet. The photo was snapped around 5 p.m. ET on Eastern Standard Time on October 29th as the spacecraft made its 16th close flyby around Jupiter, according to a recent news release. At the time, Juno was just 4,400 miles from the floating clouds. A dragon's eye? ? What do you see within the swirling clouds of Jupiter? The NASA lab asked on Twitter. The question prompted a flurry of responses, with many allowing their imaginations to wander.
Oh, that one slipped by my radar. That one slipped by my radar. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Well, that's interesting. I just see a bunch of clouds and stuff. I don't.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Well, full disclosure's coming. It's people keep talking about something's going to happen. Something's going to happen in the way the way the world is going right now, and people being awakened and all this stuff. And I think what's going to happen is disclosure. I think we're going to find out that aliens are real. They're here. We've been in contact with them. It's coming. It's coming sooner than later. I really think it is, because NASA here is acknowledging this. In this article, it sounds like that
I'll send it to you. Something. I'll send it to you. It looks like it's just a cloud formation or a gas formation. And they're asking if you see anything in it, kind of like cloud watching. That's what I'm getting out of this article.
Yeah.
So maybe not exactly what I thought, but.
Okay. We'll have to. That's.
Yeah, I sent it to you to
cool.
take a look at. It's got the pictures. But yeah, like you said, in Jupiter's clouds, very well could just be a cloud. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it would be interesting if it was a giant creature that caused the clouds to become that shape as it passed through the layers of clouds or something.
Yeah.
But that would be huge. That would be like larger. That would be almost as big as Jupiter. Like that thing would be. I don't know.
Maybe it's a spacecraft. Maybe it's a spacecraft moving through the clouds, moving through the gases and all that kind of stuff. Maybe that's what it is. Who knows? It's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
All right, guys, we're back. So we were talking about your the homunculus. What did you call it? Homunculus.
Homunculus.
Homunculus, yes, and about human
Homunculus. Yep.
hybrid creatures, and so that kind of leads me into my other story that I had for tonight. And this is a legend most people have probably heard about, and that is the Jersey Devil.
Yep, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
My father lives right near Philadelphia, so I've heard about that a lot, actually.
Yeah, the first time I heard about the Jersey Devil was when I was around 12 years old. We moved from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, and I hadn't heard, I had never heard about this thing, and then of course the first time you hear about these type of things, we're on a camping trip, and the ghost stories start coming out. The story of the Jersey Devil comes, and so that's when I first heard about it. So it's a good story, and it goes all the way back to the 1700s, I believe, during the Revolutionary War. And there was a family, the Leeds family, and supposedly they had 12 children.
Okay.
And the woman, she gets pregnant again. So it's 12 children. Yes, she has 12 children. She gets pregnant, and this is the 13th child. So she doesn't want this child. So she supposedly, as the story goes, she curses the child and makes a pact with the devil to have this child destroyed. And she gives birth to it, and out comes a baby. And then in front of everyone, it changes into this demon creature with wings and everything, and attacks everyone and kills half the people in the room, and then supposedly disappears out the window into the night. And the Jersey Devil has been described as like a animal with like a goat's head or a horse head, bat wings on it, and legs like with hooves. And there's been, this legend has persisted ever since then. New Jersey is the only state that has an official demon, which is the Jersey Devil. Most states will have a official animal and official flower. Well, New Jersey is the only one that has an official demon.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, which is the Jersey Devil, which is just great. It's like
New Jersey officially recognizes the demon as a state thing.
Wow. It's the official state demon of New Jersey. So this the creature believed to be in the Pine Barrens. Now, if you're not familiar with the Pine Barrens, it's a huge, dense, wooded, swampy area of New Jersey. And when people think of New Jersey, they think of a lot of like urban industrial stuff with New Jersey.
There's a lot of beautiful farmland out there too.
Yes, New Jersey has a huge area that is very much wooded, and a mysterious creature like the Jersey Devil could very easily live in the Pine Barrens and not be spotted. Like I said, it's a very swampy pine forest out there, and if you get out there into those pine forests, there's areas where like you can't really get around because the ground is just soft and it's yucky. And, we used to go on an annual camping trip, me and friends of mine, every year to the Pine Barrens on an annual camping trip.
So you knowingly went out and camped in a place where people believe a demon roams?
Yeah, pretty much. And we were hoping to see it. That's always part of the fun about going camping. It's like, hey, that was always the first thing like that was talked about like on the trip down.
Gotcha.
To the Pine Barrens was like, hey, maybe we'll spot the Jersey Devil this time. Maybe we'll see it out in the thing. So there have been spottings of the Jersey Devil over the years, dating all the way back to the 1700s forward. There was a huge hoax that took place about the Jersey Devil in 1909. And this is an interesting story. And what happened is this guy, if I can remember his name correctly, what he did was he claimed to have captured a Jersey Devil. Okay.
Okay.
And he had it on display in this museum in Philadelphia. Okay. And people would come and to show, they could see this creature. And it was covered up in a cage, and they would, reveal the cage. And as soon as they opened the cage up, this thing would like leap at the front of the cage and bang on it and move around inside the cage and everything. Okay. And this went on for quite some time. This thing was on display in this museum. Well, what ended up happening, it turned out that this guy had bought a red kangaroo from a zoo or a circus and attached bat wings, these like fake bat wings, to the back of the kangaroo. And what they would do is they painted the wings like this yellow-green color. Okay. And what they would do is when they would reveal the Jersey Devil to the people, there was a kid hidden in the cage with a stick with a freaking nail on the end of it, and he would jab the kangaroo in the ass.
Wow.
And this thing would leap forward, because if you got poked in the butt with a freaking nail, you jump around too. And this thing would jump around in the cage, and people really thought that this was the Jersey Devil. Not a lot of people knew what a kangaroo. I don't think he attached horns. I think the guy just attached the bat.
So it looked like a kangaroo with wings. How did they not?
Well, this is 1909. Not a lot of people knew what a kangaroo looked like. I mean,
yeah, 1909. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unless you had been to Australia or from there, you really wouldn't know what a kangaroo was looking like. So that was one of the biggest hoax that took place, and that went on for quite some time. That hoax.
Oh wow.
People were going there to see this thing, and that went on for a while. But the legend of the Jersey Devil is just one of those things that has been around for a long time. Now, where the original story started, who told the original story and stuff like that, that's all lost to folklore and legend. Nobody really knows where this story came from, who made it up. Just that, the thing with the Leeds family and all that, and supposedly the cursing of the child and all that, and it was the 13th child. But it's something that's persisted for a long time, and if you live in New Jersey, you definitely have heard about it, and even that's where the name for the Jersey Devils hockey team comes from. They call the hockey
recognized by the state.
Yep, they call the what do you call it? They call the hockey team the Jersey Devils, and that's why they call them that, because of the of this story. It's been around for a long time.
Over 100 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially
Definitely.
if in 1903 they were faking it.
And I guess there's something about, what does this say? There was something about Benjamin Franklin, and something about alchemy, and something with the Leeds family. I don't know. Being described as a monster. I'm not sure exactly what that was, but if people have seen this thing, they claim even to this day to see it. Now I don't know what are they seeing, because it has like it's a horse head with wings, hooves, and people are saying that they're spotting this thing out in the pine barrens. Recently. This isn't something that happened in the past. This is a recent thing in the 2000s too, that there have been some sightings of it.
Yeah.
So are they some people are saying, well, they're misidentifying large cranes, which maybe at night in the dark, you're out in the woods, you're scared, you're thinking about, I'm going to find a Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
And you see a crane out there, and he kind of moves his wings up, and
in the head,
if you've never really seen a crane up close, a large one, they're pretty freaking big animals, and so it's possible that that's what maybe some people saw. Maybe they're actually seeing the Jersey Devil. Maybe this is some sort of interdimensional creature.
Yep.
Maybe at one time it was a real creature that lived, and the story just came up about it being the cursed 13th child of this family, because it made for a more interesting story around an animal that existed. Who knows? But yeah, it's really bizarre though that the state actually freaking recognizes it as the official demon of New Jersey.
Yep, that is. But
so when did you first hear about like the Jersey Devil?
I've been hearing about it since I was a kid. My dad lives in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Well, he lives in Levittown, just not that far. You know where Levittown is?
Yeah, I know where it is. Sure.
Yeah, it's not that far from Jersey. It's like a 15-minute drive near across the Jersey border.
Okay.
So you hear people from Jersey come over all the time. They talk, and he being around Philadelphia, like that's just a huge urban myth, even in the Philadelphia area. Everybody talks.
Okay.
Everybody I know that was over there in Philadelphia talked about it at one point or another. So,
yeah.
Well, I know on a personal level, I should say. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I get, there were publications of this back during like 1859. The Atlantic Monthly published an article detailing the Leeds Devil folk tale, which, made it, of course, that brings it more into the population and all that kind of stuff, so it makes it more known. I guess newspapers in the 1887s described sightings of a winged creature referred to as the Devil of Leeds. So when stuff appears in like papers and stuff like that, people start to believe it more. But it's funny, even you go back as far as the 1800s, and you got to sell newspapers, man. And so how do you sell newspapers? By putting a big front article on it that says Jersey Devil spotted in the Pine Barrens, and you're going to sell more of your newspaper. Fake news even back then.
Yep.
And clickbait,
good.
No, it's just it's interesting how it just continues to live on. It's one of those legends that I don't think will ever die.
Nope, unless the U.S. doesn't exist anymore, perhaps. But then it will be called something else.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think the legend will ever die. It'll continue to be there for a very long time. And I think it's great that somebody glued wings onto a red kangaroo.
Yeah.
That guy was imaginative. Let me tell you. He saw an opportunity and he went with it. He saw something. It's like, I'm gonna make some money.
Well, anyways, are we going to move on to the next one?
Yeah. Let's continue on. That's all I really have to say about the Jersey Devil. There, it's like I said, I don't think it's a legend that will ever die.
Yeah, that's probably true. But so the next topic I have, it skirts the edges of a few different categories.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Supposedly we have somebody who wants to come on and tell us a story. No.
Okay.
Do you see anyone in the waiting room?
No, there's no one in the waiting room.
Huh. I don't know. I just got a mess that they were in the waiting room, or that they wanted to tell a story to the thing, but you got to come into the Discord and
in the chat
and go into the waiting room and the thing.
There is a link in the Twitch broadcast I posted. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna have to copy that again for anybody watching currently, because if you just joined, it might not be there.
Yeah, because I just got a private message.
Yeah.
That was asking me to pull someone into the thing. Hey.
There he goes.
All right. Well, let's take go ahead and take a thing from someone right now, and before we move on, how's that sound?
Sounds good. All right, I'm gonna move him over.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, I figured it out.
How you doing, man? What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Luther. I'm from Texas.
All
Do I
right,
need to
man.
tell
So
anything
No. Don't say anything. We just your name and where you're from, man. We don't no last names or anything like that.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I figured. But you like paused like I was supposed to be, telling you more, and I really didn't want to tell you more. But
yeah, no, it's fine.
So what's your story?
Well, I mean, I was just listening earlier. So, like, what topic are we on right now? Before I go into that,
We're talking about urban legends and like cryptozoology, like Bigfoot and
we just finished up
Mothman,
on the Jersey Devil story.
Yep.
Yeah, I was listening to the Jersey Devil. So
I mean, if you have something that's loosely related, it doesn't have to be exactly related. If you want to go ahead.
Well, I was like, mine's more like a paranormal experience that I still have to swear by to this day, because it's the only kind of. Well, I've only had like maybe two, but those are stories for another time. But the one that you guys want me to go ahead and tell it? Like,
yeah.
You want me to just tell the whole story?
Yeah,
go ahead, please.
Like I said, it was like 5 years ago, and I was transitioning between jobs, and I was still staying at my dad's house. And like, the house that we were in was like my dad's family house. Like, I'm pretty sure some of his family members were born in there and died in that house. So like, it was already like pretty much what I would like to call haunted. But that's all up in the air. But we were pretty damn sure the house was haunted. That's the whole point. But I came back from El Paso, and I was jobless, and the room I was in, I remember this happened for like a week, and I would wake up. They called them night terrors, but I would wake up and I'd be fully paralyzed, and I couldn't move or do anything. I couldn't even really breathe. But I always felt like there was like some kind of like crushing weight on me. I could never really describe it. And this went on for like almost a week. Well, it went on up until like a Friday. Like it literally happened for like almost 4 consecutive nights. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday. Friday is what freaked me out. I had the same thing happen. I just didn't think much of it, because like when these events would happen, I would just kind of like will myself to move, and then I was okay. Like, I just kind of freaked out a little bit. Well, that Friday, same thing happened, except my right leg went up in the air like something was picking me up by my heel and dragged me halfway out of the bed.
Oh no! Wow. Okay.
So I don't know if I was dreaming or what was going on, but I was hanging halfway off the bed when I came to and I could move. So I'm like, this has happened before where I'm awake and this shit's going on, and I was never dragged out of the bed. So, like I said, I don't know what to still make of it to this day. All I remember, I was like, okay, well, something just picked me up. And I'm a pretty heavy guy. Don't get me wrong, I'm a pretty heavy dude. And something pulled me like I was like, I don't know, a toy across the bed.
So have you had any further experiences since then with that?
Nothing like that. Nothing like real physical. Like, it's kind of, I don't know. What I remember in the house the most, there would be like, I have to get my brother on to talk about this one too, because he's the only one that can vouch for me. But there would be some parts of the house where like you go through it and it'd be like cold, and you get like, when something weird's going on, you almost get like that sixth sense kind of tingly kind of feeling.
Yeah. No, exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
it's almost like your instincts kind of kicking in. Well, there'd be parts of the house I'd go through there and like my entire spine would tingle. But like there are parts of this house, like parts of the kitchen that I go through, and my spine tingles really bad. So I'm like, something weird going on in this house too, and I know there is. And me and my partner have had some strange things that happen in this house, and I'm like, I don't know if the house is haunted or if something's following me at this point. Could be a bit of both. I don't know.
I was just gonna say maybe you have something attached to you that's following you, because that's what happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's usually how it works. Like, it's not anywhere near as bad as it used to be, but like I said, when those kind of things happen is when I was like at the most stress points in my life. And this is what I noticed the most. The most stress points in my life are when these kind of things happen.
Yeah.
But like now that things have kind of been okay, it's like, I don't know, maybe I don't pay any mind to it anymore. It doesn't bother me. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I don't know what to make of it.
In my experiences, in those realm of things, they're all around us all the time, whether or not we can tell or tap into them at any given point.
Well, yeah, I mean,
different.
It's like people believe that atoms and all these little particles compose our bodies. We can't see any of that, but we believe it. I mean,
yeah.
Well, that's a really cool story, man. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Oh yeah,
I really appreciate that. And it's cool. Do you have anything else that you wanted to mention or say?
No, not in particular. Like I said, I'd have to get my brother on to talk about a couple. Well, actually, no, I do remember one other story about that, because this actually happened almost at the same time frame. Like, I had that happen. I got pulled out of the bed like a couple months after what was going on with my brother. But my brother, he slept in the living room, and something would pull the covers off of him at night. I mean, pull them all the way off. And he came up to me one day, he's like, "Why do you keep pulling the covers off me?" And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
It sounds like you have something attached to you that might be more of like a poltergeist kind of thing, that because poltergeist will physically interact with people in the area, and it will follow you. So that could be possibly it's going. It could be something else. Who knows? You know?
Like I said, I don't know, but it was just in that house when that happened. Like nothing like that's happened ever since the house burned down.
That's cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, man.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story.
If I can think of anything else top of my head, I'll have to come back on some other time and I have to tell some more. Because I think there's been a couple of other things that have happened that I can kindly remember, but I need to go talk to some other people to kind of get exactly what happened.
Sounds anytime, man. You're welcome into, like we said, you come in and go to the waiting room. Anybody that wants to be on the show and interact with us and be part of it, that's what we want. So absolutely, we would love to have you back and talk about more things that have happened with you, man. Definitely.
Yep.
Well, you gentlemen take care.
You too. Thank you.
All right, Lee. Thank you very much for coming by. We appreciate it.
Thank you for stopping in on the show.
Guys. Yep. Absolutely. You gentlemen have a wonderful night.
You too.
That's interesting, man. It definitely sounds like it could be like a poltergeist situation following.
We just heard a ghost story from Lee from Texas.
Yes.
So
thanks, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
So what were we moving into? You were about to tell your next thing.
Yeah, well, the next topic I had, like I said, it kind of skirts the edges of the different topics that we're talking about tonight. And you could claim that they're a mythical creature, or they're just a creature out of fantasy, or you could claim that they're real and don't exist in the way we think they do. Any number of things. And they've been known to prey on people. At least in the lore, they've been known to prey on people. It's said that they drain your very life essence from you. And what we're talking about tonight in terms of, it falls under both urban myth and fantasy and myth. And that would be vampires. Especially in particular when you talk about them in regards to New Orleans, where that's more of a local or urban myth. It's not just vampires like fantasy. That's an urban myth in the New Orleans area. And I believe you actually have some experience with this, or at least with New Orleans, in terms of those kinds of urban myths and stuff. Do you not?
Yes, I lived in New Orleans for a couple years, and spent some time in Louisiana. And my experience there is that there's a lot of vampire lore in New Orleans.
Yeah.
My personal experience, though, was actually more of a psychic vampire. And those that aren't familiar with that term or know what that is, that's a person who knowingly or unknowingly feeds off of your energy, off of your aura. Now, everyone has an aura that exists around them, and psychic vampires will feed off of that energy. And like I said, they do it knowingly or unknowingly. I believe this person that I encountered did it unknowingly. Like they didn't know that they were doing this.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, is because I was going to touch on that too. So you're talking about feeding the aura and everything. Imagine you're sitting there and someone else is sitting across from you in the room. Imagine these invisible tendrils or like pipes or tubes that loop in and out that connect between the two of you, and imagine that having the flow of energy go from you to them.
Mm-hmm.
So like a connection between the two of you. That's essentially what it's like as a spiritual vampire.
Yeah, now I've heard that also with that people that knowingly can do it, like they know that they're a psychic vampire, that there are people that actually together. Like two people will connect and pass their energy back and forth between each other. I'm not sure the purpose of it, but I've heard that people will do that in a similar way that people talk about vampires, that most people know about, where they feed off blood and they would share blood between each other and stuff. Like I've heard of that about vampires. But psychic vampires, I've heard that people will connect to each other and actually share the energy between themselves. I'm not exactly sure why or what it's supposed to do, but I've heard of that happening.
Yeah. You know, and we're getting into the New Orleans vampires and everything, and it's one of those things where I believe that vampires are people that have found a means of extending their lifetime either through some physical means or a spiritual means or a mix of both. And it's like they energize themselves through the consuming of either energy or, well, I mean, really everything you consume is energy for your body, whether it's physical or not.
Yeah.
Well, some of it's toxic, but you know what I mean. It's one of those things, and I believe that's where you start hearing some of the stories of the New Orleans vampires that have been around since the 1800s that are still alive apparently today and throwing parties.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what. Yeah, talking about parties. There's a huge ball that takes place in New Orleans every year during Halloween, and supposedly it's populated by many vampires. And I can tell you this: whether you believe in the actual blood-sucking vampires as being real, or it's just made up type of thing, I can tell you for sure they believe they're vampires. These people exist and they drink blood. It goes on.
Yep.
And you can take what you want from that as it being the legends of what you hear about vampires, or these are people just doing this to think they're vampires. But it happens. I know it for a fact, and that's kind of disturbing that actually is that's taking place. It 100% happens. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. No, I believe that. I've actually dated a girl the one time that wanted me to act as a vampire for real. I was like, no. No,
like she wanted you to drink her blood?
Yeah, and I was like, not happening.
Yeah, that's dangerous in so many ways.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Just nope, not for this guy.
Now, when you start talking about the legends of vampires, like Bram Stoker's vampire, and all that, I mean, those legends go back again, into history, way back. And Bram Stoker took his, he's not the one that came up with vampire. What he did is he collected all the legends that existed, and put them together into his book. But those stories have persisted for very long, hundreds of years, about creatures that roam the night, that suck blood from people, and it's not hard to believe it when you look at the animal world. There are creatures out there that exist that feed off of blood, off of humans and other animals. We don't think of them as being these big scary creatures, but these animals do exist. I mean, you start with the most smallest, like a mosquito, a bed bug, then you head into vampire bats, which will bite you and lick up the blood, and they have actually a thing in their saliva that keeps your blood from coagulating. Then you have leeches. So there are creatures all through the animal kingdom that exist that live on blood and drink blood from other animals and from people. So, to say that there was a creature that exists that lives off of human blood and attacks people in the night, hey, it could be. You never know.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that's like,
Well, let me tell you, like I said, my experience has been that there are people that do this They drink blood.
No, yeah.
And they drink it from someone who's alive.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just got distracted because someone said something in the chat. But no, I agree with you. Whether or not it actually does anything, there are people that drink blood. And for example, there's people that are cannibals and eat people. I mean, it's really not that far-fetched to believe that there's people that drink blood and feel like it's imbuing them with some sort of power or, I don't know.
Well, you can go back and look, if you look at history, you look at warriors and that type of thing, drinking the blood of your enemy or consuming like their heart was considered taking their energy into your body and would make you more powerful and make you live longer. So that type of thing took place and existed. And I think really there's more than the blood-sucking vampire that we see in movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I believe more actually that what really exists is more of psychic vampires that feed people's auras and energy.
Well, I have personal experience with people that can do that, so it's not... Once I realized what was going on, I was able to stop it, but it was just one of those things until you realize it's... You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, psychic vampires, feeding off of auras, that there's a lot of people out there that say that auras it's not a real thing, they don't exist and stuff. But have you ever taken a look or heard about aura spectrography? And aura photography?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I was going to bring that up when you said that. It reminded me. I think you told me about it before. It's where... It's not hard to believe that stuff exists, at least for me, because they've proven that our entire nervous system in our body is affected by... It is electronic. I mean, it's electricity. It's energy. And they say that our brain functions at different wavelengths and different energies, and that we all put off our own, like, at least slightly, and to some degree, we all put off our own wavelengths.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because we are electrical beings. And that's why, for example, electricity can stop your heart. Electricity can fry your brain. Not just an overload, but it's because our body uses electricity to function. And all that stuff with that's a form of energy. So can we emit different forms of energy off our body? Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah. And the whole thing with psychic vampires and the aura things, what I've seen is like people that are supposedly psychic vampires, when they take a photograph of their aura comes out being red, like this red color or darker colors. And then people that are supposedly, where they did an experiment where they took a psychic vampire, they took a picture of their aura, then they take a picture of the regular person's aura, the victim. Call them, and they both have auras that are unbroken. Then supposedly the psychic vampire does its thing and draws off the energy off this person. Then they retake the photograph. The psychic vampire's aura has grown stronger in color, and the victim's color has diminished, and you can see actual breaks within their aura around their body.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty freaking cool thing. And now, whether you want to believe in the whole photography of aura or not, but that experiment was done, and it was really freaking had me convinced. I can tell you that much. So, and then you get into the whole thing with, vampires a legend, and where all that type of thing comes from, and where that starts, and what I was saying before about, the different animals. And then if you look at a lot of the legends come out of the decomposing body, supposedly. So when someone dies, back in the day, they would bury somebody. And for whatever reason, grave robbers, they go to dig up a body and they see this body, and it looks like the fingernails have continued to grow, but it's just the skin drying out and receding. So it makes it look like the fingernails grew. Same thing with like the hair, making it look like the hair grew. And then of course, because they didn't have embalming the way we do now, so you have the body fluids breaking down, coming out through the mouth, so you have blood around the mouth. Again, the teeth are starting to recede, or not to recede, but you see the lips are receding, so you see more of the teeth.
And the gums.
Yeah, and so that's where supposedly, people thought, well, these are vampires. And then the weird thing is that when a body decomposes and starts filling up with gas, it can what happens is there's this thing where the gas is released and it can come out through the mouth. And when it comes out through the mouth, it sounds like someone moaning. So it gives off this,
like
sound coming
alive.
through. Exactly. And then you
Change
also
of air
have
pressure when you open the casket.
Yep, and then you also have this thing, and I don't remember what it's called, but when rigor mortis sets in, it's a thing where the body can move on its own. And it's caused. I don't exactly know what the scientific term is for it, but what can happen is like an arm can move upward, like from the joint, like the arm.
I know what you're talking about. It's like rising limb syndrome or something.
Yeah, like a body can actually sit up and then go back down. So, when you've got these stories of vampires taking place and then you've got that type of stuff happening, it doesn't take much for people's
imaginations
to take it further. But, there's stories about, people being in the middle of the night being attacked and they're found dead in the morning and all their blood is drained out of them.
Yeah.
That's, who knows what that, that could be vampires, it could be, again, alien abductions, as people say, attacks, psycho murderer. So it could be all sorts of stuff like that when you start looking into what the possibilities are. Vampires are also something that's just very cool.
Yeah,
people find interesting.
Well, that's the thing too about vampires. Vampires very well could just be people that are drinking people's blood. Like they could just be normal people, but they're drinking people's blood, or spiritually siphoning from people. Like literally, they could just, That could be what it is, and it doesn't mean that there's some supernatural being.
Yeah. Well, I say if you're drinking the blood from another person, you're a vampire.
Yep.
I don't care. That doesn't mean that you're going to live forever or anything like that. Doesn't mean
you're engaging in vampirism.
You're engaging in vampirism. Exactly. So, vampires do exist in one form or another. And it's that's cool. Also people are fascinated by vampires with the fact that, eternal youth, that you can continue to live, for such a long time.
Yep.
That's something else that takes place. So I don't know. Hold on a second. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about on vampires?
No. I talked about pretty much everything I wanted to touch topic on. Just talking about the New Orleans vampires and spiritual vampires and blood drinking vampires. So I think I'm good on that. A lot of the stuff like the exact lore behind vampires, like Count Dracula, a lot of people, pretty much everybody at this point knows about that. But
yeah, there is one thing I did want to talk about tonight before we did thing, and that's the I think what you can call the granddaddy of all urban myths and legends. Okay. And I think you have to mention it if you're doing a show on cryptozoology and urban legends, and that's the Bigfoot.
Oh, the Bigfoot.
Everybody has heard about Bigfoot.
I personally know Bigfoot. I personally know Sasquatch.
So, how's that?
He was on a show earlier.
Oh.
I'm just messing. So, the people that don't know, I personally know Lee. So we're just busting his balls, but yeah.
But Bigfoot, that legend again has existed for a very long time, hundreds of years, goes all the way back to natives peoples all over the world. You have Bigfoot, Yeti, Sasquatch, the Grassman, Skunk Monster, and other various names for a creature that covered in hair, ape-like, walks on two legs. And the best known footage of Sasquatch is the Patterson film from the 60s, which took place, I believe that was in, was that 67? I think the Patterson film. And they actually, now, Patterson was, him and his buddy that was filmed on October 20th in 1967. That's right, and that was Robert Patterson and Robert Glim, I believe his name was, and they were Bigfoot hunters. Okay, so they were going out into the mountains, looking for Bigfoot, and they actually captured Bigfoot on film. Now, if you have not seen the Patterson film, it's pretty freaking amazing, and it has been analyzed to death for years, since this took place, and no, they cannot prove it to be fake. They've had experts look at this thing. They've looked at how the creature walks, the gait, whether, does it walk like a man? Does it walk like an ape? And they cannot say that this is a hoax. It just continues to go on and on. Now, maybe in the future, there'll be some new technology that could look at this film in a different way, but to this day it still persists as a genuine Bigfoot footage of a Sasquatch. And what's really interesting about it is, as the creature's walking, it turns and looks like back over its shoulder at them.
Yeah,
like this is an intelligent creature that knows
they're watching them,
that knows it's being watched.
Yeah.
So you have sightings like Sasquatch and the Yeti and all that taking place all around the world, North America. And if you haven't seen that particular film, you need to look at it because it is one of the best that's ever seen. I don't know. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I believe I have. I used to watch a lot of stuff on the television with my dad about urban myths, like I was saying earlier, or urban legends and stuff, and all those things. And Bigfoot was on there all the time.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there have been a lot of hoaxes over the years with Bigfoot, people faking footprints and stuff like that. But there have been, again, some, stuff that's been found that hasn't been proven to be a hoax, and they've found scat samples, fur samples that cannot be identified. So it's like, what is it?
What is it? We don't know, but we'll deny it exists.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at other animals in the animal kingdom, if you look at the gorilla, okay, was it in Africa, the mountain gorilla? That was a legend for a very long time.
Yeah, well,
and it took, once science started looking at it, it took 60 years to prove that they were real.
Yeah, well, real quick, Mr. Marcus had said, do you think Bigfoot is a product of some of the experiments you spoke about earlier?
It's possible. It's very possible that it could be. That's something that people talk about. But this, the legend goes back so far. Native peoples talk about it here in North America about, there being a Sasquatch creature. And it was part of the culture of some of the native tribes. Same thing when you go over to Asia and they talk about the Yeti. Same
exactly.
thing. This is a creature that exists in the mountains. So is it possible that there could be genetic experiments took place that created a creature now? Possible, yes. But I think this goes back much further than that, for sure.
Yep. I believe it probably does too. I believe they might try to reproduce it even using today's technology.
Yeah, well, scientists say that, they talk about Bigfoot and they're like, well, we believe that there once was a creature like Bigfoot called Gigantopithecus, okay, and everything. It's like, well, yeah, this creature once existed. They have found, a fossil record that shows it and everything, a large.
Oh, like the giants from the Bible and the giants they found in the graves.
Yeah, here's the thing is that this is an animal they're talking about that went extinct.
Supposedly.
Okay. Now, supposedly. So this brings us all the way back now to the beginning of the show with the Tasmanian tiger, which is an animal that known to exist, has gone extinct, but is still being spotted to this day. So maybe Bigfoot is a creature that has existed, and the fossils for Bigfoot go back millennia, just like the Tasmanian tiger.
Yep.
They have been around forever, and maybe Bigfoot is a creature that has been around since, time and millennia, and we just can't find it. Maybe, there's things that say maybe it lives underground. There's things that say maybe it's interdimensional. It could be so many things that there are theories about the Bigfoot.
That is true. But
I get excited talking about Bigfoot because it's it's the granddaddy of all. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, what do you think the Bigfoot is?
Well, I think it could be some humanoid. It could be some sub-branch of humans, for all I know. It could be kind of like the giants that they used to refer to in ancient culture and in the Bible and all those other places, where it could be this like race of humans or something's closely related to a human that just happens to be thriving today still, or that just not thriving but surviving today, and it's smart enough not to be found by us.
Yeah. The other thing it could be too, I mean, it's possible that the footage that was caught on that film, I don't remember what it's called. There's a disease that humans get where their body is completely covered in hair. And maybe this was someone who had that disease and went out into the wilderness to get away from everybody, because let's face it, some people weren't too kind in the past to people that had problems like that.
Yep,
I mean, it's always a possibility that that's what they could have caught. I mean, who knows? There are those, was it the two twin boys? I think they're somewhere. Are they in Central or South America or Mexico?
Well, kind of like Wolf Boy.
Yeah, there's twins that lived in. Gotcha. They're in a circus and all that, and they have that disease. And if you saw them, it's a bizarre disease, and maybe that's what it is. It could be. But you've got Bigfoot existing all around the country, not just out in the Pacific Northwest with Sasquatch. I mean, you've got the Honey Island swamp monster, which supposedly is a Bigfoot creature that exists, that's been spotted. And you have people spotting these things all over the country and the world.
Mr. Marcus says he put the name of it in the chat. It's hypertrichosis. That's the name of the disease.
Yes, thank you, Marcus. That's exactly the name of the disease. I couldn't remember it. It's a crazy, that's a bizarre disease that people can get, and who knows, maybe that's what this is. What was interesting about this Bigfoot footage is that there was what's his name in Hollywood. Oh my God, now the name's missing me. But he was a special effects artist.
Yeah.
He won the Academy Award for special effects on Planet of the Apes, the original movie, and there was a rumor going around that he was the one that did the suit for the Patterson film. And he said, yes, it's true. And he let that thing go all through Hollywood. And he came out then eventually and said in an interview that it was not true. He never knew Mr. Patterson or Mr. Glim, had nothing to do with them. He just... for the publicity. It helped his career in Hollywood, people thinking that he had something to do with that. So, if the Bigfoot is something that just lives on, and there's a lot of evidence to say that this creature might exist, who knows? And maybe one day we'll actually find a Bigfoot. I just think it's fantastic. Yeah, I think that's a good place to end tonight's thing. I mean, we don't really need to talk about any more about Bigfoot. Most people know about the legends and about the stuff, but I just think it's something that could be real. And that footage is pretty convincing in that it hasn't been debunked in all these years.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing it up, and thank you for everybody who tuned in. Thank you for watching the show, and at a later date, if you wish to watch parts that you missed, we're going to be uploading this to YouTube as it is. So,
absolutely. And thanks everybody for tuning in tonight and listening. And like Jericho said, you can catch it on YouTube. Don't forget about coming into Discord and seeing all the articles and stuff that we talked about tonight will be posted in our news thing, so you can read more about what we were talking about.
All right.
So have a great evening.
Have a good night, everyone, and have a good night, David, and thank you for co-hosting the show with me tonight.
All right, good night.
Good night.